Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video, wherever you are in the world, my friends, finds you in good spirits and safe and happy and healthy. Once again, please continue to take very good care of yourselves wherever you are, my friends, and warmest regards. And today, if you don't mind, I would like to continue our journey through the recent releases made by the Criterion Collection during this year of 2020. Today, I'd like to focus our attention specifically on that title, which has been given the spine number 1034. And this is from 2019. The filmmaker is Celine Sciamma, and the name of the film is Portrait de la jeune fille en feu, or in English, Portrait of a Lady on Fire. This is a film from 2019. The filmmaker is Celine Sciamma. Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Now, this is a film that I did not see when it was first released. And I'd heard about it, and it received such high praise from critics and festival circuits alike in 2019 and leading through 2020. And along the way, I had received so many comments from people, from friends, from viewers of this channel, who were so enthusiastic about their love and admiration for this film, recommending this film to me so strongly and so passionately that when this film arrived at my doorstep several days ago in the form of this Criterion Blu-ray, I was compelled to watch it immediately, which is what I did. And again, this was my first time watching this film through this Criterion Blu-ray. A glorious, beautiful presentation of the film, by the way, and I'll get to those details later on in this video. But I was seeing it for the first time, and by the time I had finished it, I felt emotionally overwhelmed. I was perhaps expecting the film to be an impactful one, but I wasn't expecting it to be this emotionally powerful. So that by the time I had finished watching it for the first time, I was simply in awe of what it was achieving, what it had achieved, the story that it was telling, the way it was telling it, the look of the film, the feel of the film. It is a period piece, and yet it feels so intimate and direct, and it is telling a story with such cinematic poetry. It just dazzles the mind, and at its core we have an emotionally intimate and beautiful and moving portrait of these characters, these women, Marianne and Eloise, played by Noemie, Merlant, and Adele, Haenel. And also included in the cast are the character of Sophie, played by Luana Bajrami, and the Countess, played by Valeria Golino. So, at the end of this initial viewing, I was left feeling so overwhelmed that I needed a little bit of time. I decided to watch the film again, and I was left at the end of that second viewing with a feeling of just deep enthusiasm for what this film, what the filmmakers, what the cast and crew, what Celine Sciamma had achieved with the making of this film, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, such that the feelings that I had felt upon initial view were reinforced and enhanced upon the second viewing of this film for me. And the Criterion supplements that I then watched and experienced and read further supported what I was feeling. I was left feeling feeling that I'd seen something marvelous. Portrait of a Lady on Fire is a marvelous work of art. It is a work of art that presents a world. It is a period film that attempts to capture period details down to the very to the minute little thing, but it's those little things that make up such a glorious and grand and beautiful whole. The way that the decor is presented, the way that this environment, Brittany, Quiberon Peninsula, is presented, the apparent starkness of the buildings, and the way that the light shines through and lights up the walls, the way that the cliffs and the beachside and the waters are portrayed, and the way those sounds enhance the richness of the environment, the way things seem down to earth and almost minimalist, the way that candlelight is used, the way that decor is seemingly minimalist in the background, and yet at the same time there's this paradoxical perfect beauty in that almost minimalist approach, because while there is this sense of a stark poetic cinematic philosophy in the visuals of the film, which is a brilliant approach, by the way, this gives way to not a cold, it's clinical film. On the contrary, these visuals give way to and enhance and support a story which is anchored in the emotional intimacy and passion that arises between the characters, and in particular between the two characters of this film, Marianne and Eloise, such that we have a beautiful, paradoxical work of art that operates on many levels, both in terms of a crisp, clean beauty to the visuals that supports the intimate and true and beautifully portrayed relationships that are so three-dimensional, that are so given so much life and energy, and that are so believable and approachable. That's another amazing thing about this film. It is a period piece, and yet it feels so intimate, so close, such that a viewer like myself, who is in 2020, the year's 2020, can watch this film and just be in awe and feel the passions and feel the love and the regret and the pain and the joys that accompany these characters and their journey throughout this film. And so I love that. I really love the feeling of intimacy. It's painting a whole different world on the one hand, but then on the other hand, it is giving us such ease of accessibility such that we can really identify with these beautifully portrayed characters and what it is they are about, who they are as human beings, as living human beings that are here on the cinematic canvas that is being given to us, that is being portrayed through the cinematic brushstrokes, if you will, of Celine Sciamma. This is an extraordinary work, absolutely extraordinary, and I was so taken with the performances of the film. Noemie Merlant and Adele Haenel as Marianne and Eloise respectively really provide, of course, in many ways, the sort of heart and soul of the film in the sense that we see their relationship and the circumstances of the relationship and how it develops over the time and progress of the film. And they are, of course, not alone, because we also see some beautifully portrayed characters in the character of Sophie, as I say, played by Luana Bajrami, and then the Countess, a wonderful performance by Valeria Golino, a performance where she speaks many languages at once. And so it's just a combination of brilliantly portrayed factors that come together in this singular form, this powerful, commanding work of art that never forgets its intimate tone, that never forgets the importance of emotion, the importance of heart, and the care that it gives to its characters and the world that those characters inhabit, really make way for what is undoubtedly an unforgettable watching experience. It's an unforgettable work, and as I say, I've seen it twice. I'm so happy to have been able to see it at last. I am still recovering in many ways from the emotional impact of the film, because it indeed has such an emotional impact. So beautiful, so poetically realized, and such a towering work. This is Portrait of a Lady on Fire. And with that, my friends, the Criterion collection has not disappointed in this release of Portrait of a Lady on Fire, because what we have here is we have the Blu-ray. It is described on the back as being director-approved Blu-ray, and so we have the back right here. And it is a wonderful presentation of what is purported to be a new 4K digital master of the film. And it looks exquisite, absolutely looks exquisite. You know, of course, with any film, the look, the cinematography is one of the key components. Of course, we all know this, right? But I think this is certainly the case for Portrait of a Lady on Fire. The director of photography is Claire Mathon, and we will get to the wonderful work of director of photography Claire Mathon when we speak about a supplement, which is an interview with her later on in this video. But the cinematography is exquisite, and the presentation by Criterion really helps to enhance that. So this is a wonderful look and presentation by Criterion. But that is not all, because this presentation includes a number of brilliant supplements. The first of which is a 31-minute interview conducted in 2020, and this is a Criterion Collection produced supplement. This is an interview conducted by Dana Stevens with Celine Sciamma. It's a conversation between the two of them where they talk about Sciamma's career leading up to Portrait of a Lady on Fire, so the earlier feature films that she made, Water Lilies, Tomboy, and Girlhood, and talking about how those films, or what was Sciamma's approach to those films, how they were films about adolescence, and she has a really wonderful way of describing it, about how they were about youth and they were about the present, but they were also about what she refers to as the mythology of cinema, how this idea of looking back on one's youth and one's past seems to hearken to a sense of a mythology of cinema. And I really love this mentioning of mythology, because as we know, there is something also about, there's something beautifully paradoxical at play in Portrait of a Lady on Fire as well. It's set in a historical past, and yet it feels very much in the present. it's set in a world that no longer exists, and yet it's dealing with themes and ideas that I think are universal and that are relevant even today. And there's also a realness to the film, and yet at the same time there are images that are very much linked to fantasy. There are allusions to myth, and so I love these paradoxes, and we get that sense of the importance of cinema and poetry and paradox when we hear Celine Sciamma talk about her early works in the first part of this interview. So it's a wonderful place to start. But that's not all, because she then talks in pertinent part about this film, about her approach to the film, about how she feels like this film is almost like a political film, because all cinema, at least she tries to tell us about how there is something inherently political in cinematic works, and that leads us to a really great discussion about how she is approaching this film and the subject matter of this film, of the importance of the way that this film is a film, a feminist film. And those are her words. And why is that so? And it's the idea being is that we are dealing with subject matters involving women who are in a certain place in history, and perhaps this place in history in this time does not afford all the opportunities of equality, l'égalité, that should be afforded to women like these characters. And so Sciamma hints at these themes. But what is so brilliant about her discussion of these themes, as shown through the film itself, is that these are themes that are very prevalent and very much relevant to the film itself. There are allusions and there are references made in the film, and there are situations set forth in the film that I think speak very directly to certain societal limitations that were imposed with respect to the women that are being portrayed here. And these are suggested in very specific episodes that are depicted in the film. But also they are hinted at through very subtle means in the film, such that we get a sense of this, of these themes that I think Sciamma is speaking to in this interview. But at the same time, we are reminded about how beautifully portrayed they are in the film, how subtle they are portrayed in this film, and thus how powerfully portrayed they are in this film. And so, in other words, I want to suggest to you that Sciamma's comments really remind me and really highlight to me just how wonderfully engaging and how beautifully subtle the some of the broader themes of the film are being portrayed in here. And I think Sciamma's interview really speaks to this and highlights this point very much so. And Sciamma just goes on with her description of her approach to this film, how she was trying to avoid anachronisms in the historical accuracy and being portrayed in the film, all the way down to the costumes and the dresses that were being worn by the characters. She was speaking in the interview at some point about pockets, which is a fascinating story about sort of historical accuracy and detail and pockets in the dresses. She's also talking about Helene Delmaire, the artist, the contemporary artist who, of course, provided the paintings that became the paintings that we see in this film. And so she speaks about her artwork and how the artwork is very important. She also speaks about working with the actors, Noemie Merlant and Adele, Haenel, and others, and just an overall approach to this film that makes this interview utterly brilliant and so crucial. To hear Sciamma speak about this film and her career in these beautifully worded phrases with such an eloquent manner, so well spoken and just brilliant, and just so much to think about. So this is the interview with Celine Sciamma, again approximately 31 minutes. Incredible interview. And I should point out also, she speaks too about the choice that the filmmakers had, that she had in particular with her director of photography, Claire Mathon, about whether to shoot this film in 35mm or in digital. And to hear Sciamma's reasoning behind her ultimate decision, and how she felt that for purposes of this film, to shoot it on digital would help to enhance the image, to try to capture something about how light was being captured, how the faces were being portrayed, the idea of all the way down to light and skin tone and color of dress, and the way that the decor and the walls were being lit, etc. All these details to describe her decisions to shoot the film on digital rather than on 35mm. This is extraordinary. And once again, it just these details show us all the care and craftsmanship that are going into these decisions that Sciamma is making as an artist, as a true cinematic artist. And so I just can't recommend this interview enough. And so this is, and she speaks also about the music, and about how there is, in the words of Dana Stevens, there is no extra diegetic music, and so this gives Sciamma the opportunity to speak about her approach to the music and how music is used. As you know, for those of you who've seen the film, music is an incredibly important component of this film, and how it is employed to further highlight and augment the characters' emotional trajectories. So overall, a stunning interview with Sciamma. Again, 31 minutes. But that is not all, because then we get another interview. This is actually a set of interviews, 2 interviews, but they're combined into one supplement. This is an interview with the stars Adele, Haenel, and Noemie Merlant, who again played Eloise and Marianne, respectively. And this is approximately 17 minutes. And this is, again, according to the Criterion collection, an interview from 2020, so very recent. And we get the 2 actors speaking. They are in separate rooms, so they're not together, but they're separate, and their interviews are edited together. But we hear their comments, each of them, about their approach to the film, how they ended up being part of the film, what their preparation were, respectively, prior to the start of filming, how they, as actors, who of course share a lot of screen time together, how they were interacting with each other. There are some really interesting anecdotes, for instance, from Adele Haenel, who was talking about how she sensed that there was a great sense of camaraderie, and there was a great sense of there being a complementary a spirit between the 2 of them on the one hand, but then on the other hand, she was saying how there were also little parts where there were maybe some gaps between them in terms of character, and she felt as an actor that this was something that she could use in terms of the development of the relationship of these 2 characters as they progress through the story. So it's a brilliant insight into her approach, again, playing the character of Eloise. And then Noemie Merlant also, she speaks about how she saw a lot of this film and how the characters were portrayed as dealing with themes of respect, of also, she uses the phrase or the word l'égalité, or equality. And this is also a very important word. This is a word that Sciamma herself used in her own interview, the word equality, and specifically the equality that is being achieved between these 2 women as they're being depicted on screen. And I think that is a very important component. There is this equality and intimacy and love and mutual respect and there is such an importance and emphasis placed upon these points and themes by the two actors in this interview, in particular by Noemie Merlant. And so it's just, these are brilliant insights, and again, they further help to enhance one's viewing of the film. And also, they talk in very, I think, frank and honest and very earnest terms about some of the aspects of the film. There are some intimate moments, some scenes of intimacy, of sexual intimacy that are portrayed in this film. And I really admire the comments that are made by the actors. For example, Adele Haenel, she plays Eloise, and she is speaking about how she regards, generally speaking, sex scenes in cinema are oftentimes shot from the perspective of what is often referred to as the male gaze, or the objectification of the women who are oftentimes participants in sex scenes in cinema. And what she is saying here, but for purposes of her portrayal and her approach to this film, and Celine Sciamma, she instead interpreted and felt that the scenes in this film were not scenes where women were being objectified, but rather she was not being the object, but she was being the subject. And so, in other words, she was saying how she felt like, whereas there might be sex scenes in cinema where a woman who is performing might feel robbed, or might feel somehow something is being taken from them. Here, she was feeling the opposite. She was feeling how there was a sense of her being an active participant, an active subject that is participating in these scenes of intimacy, and that she was feeling like the scenes of intimacy were representations of expressions of creativity, expressions of collaboration, of physical intimacy, of togetherness, of a real connection between two human beings. And thus there's a real sense of respect and self-respect and dignity that is maintained while we see scenes of intimacy portrayed on screen in this film, Portrait of a Lady on Fire. And I find these comments to be very illuminative, and to really help, as I say, to illustrate just how effective this film is, and also that scenes that are that seem to be very emotional and intimate and direct also have certain resonance and meaning that I think can be taken in a larger context. And so I find these comments from the actors here, Adele Haenel and Noemie Merlant, to be extraordinary and brilliant. So this is the interview. Again, it's edited together in one supplement, approximately 17 minutes. Highly, highly worth checking out. So the interview with Adele Haenel and Noemie Merlant. But that's not all, because then we get an interview from 2019. This is described as being an interview from Cannes from 2019, and this is an interview with the director of photography, Claire Mathon. It's a one-on-one interview, approximately 18 minutes, where she speaks about her approach to the film, her philosophy, as it were, as the director of photography on the film, her working relationship with the director, and things of that nature. Once again, the look of this film, the feel of this film through the images and through the visuals is one of the most important aspects of this film. It shows so much. There's so much beauty and grace and nobility and poetry portrayed through the visuals. The camera work is stunningly controlled. It's stunning in terms of its control and its composition. And but it's not at all glacial and it's not at all cold. It is controlled, it is well composed, and it is still very intimate and passionate, which I find such a remarkable combination. And so this is, again, another essential interview, this time with the director of photography, who, again, provides one of the key aspects of this film. So Claire Mathon's interview, again, it's included with the Criterion release. And then the fourth supplement, which is included here, is another interview from also from 2019. This is with the painter and artist Helene Delmaire, approximately 11 minutes. And this is a one-on-one interview with the artist, and she speaks about her involvement with the film because she provides the artwork, the painting, that is at the center of this film. And not only that, she describes her involvement with the film, how she was actually participating in some of the filming of the film, how she was interacting with the artists and the performers and the actors, and how she had to get to know the actors and the approach that she had to adopt in terms of getting to know the actors, etc., because that was part of her contribution in terms of creating these paintings that would become the central aspect of this film, or one of the central aspects of the film. And therefore, this is another great interview. Again, Helene Delmaire and her one-on-one interview here, that's included, 11 minutes, and it's a wonderful, brilliant, and insightful one. So this is another one that shouldn't be missed. Please check it out if you can. Speaking of Helene Delmaire, I should mention that the artwork that we have here is, of course, this is Helene Delmaire's work. And so this is an indication of the brilliance that is the artistry of Helene Delmaire. And so I love how Criterion uses this as the basis for the artwork. So that's really wonderful. And so then we get to more artwork here, this is from the booklet. This is the fold-out booklet right here. And so as you can see, the motif on one side is very key. A very key one here, and we have, again, here at the very end, cast and crew credits, and then we have a picture, which is an interesting little thing. As you can see, on one end we have one picture, and then on the other hand we have another picture. Now, for those of you who know the film, will recognize that this is in fact a shot or a scene from the film, and so if you fold it together in such a way, you can see that the picture comes together like this. Isn't that a nice little detail? And as I say, this is a key moment of the film. So there's that. There's also this painting, which is also a key detail of the film. And so this is a nice fold-out artistic decor. But on the other side, we get another sketch, which is also a very important aspect of the film. But this is also the essay. This is Daring to See, Ela Bittencourt. And this essay is another great one. Now, I have mentioned again and again about how much I love the essays that are included with the Criterion releases, and this is no exception to that, my friends. This essay is well written. I love some of the details that are mentioned here about, for example, how it's described how Sciamma has referred to Portrait of a Lady on Fire as, quote, manifesto about the female gaze, end quote. And the phrase here, few directors have embraced the idea of women's autonomy as radically as she has. In this film, the consequences of men's authority are omnipresent, but women take the reins and their isolation becomes a measure of their freedom. That is such a well-stated phrase. And also, let me add to that the way that it's portrayed in the film is so subtle, and such as to make the film almost a film that is, as I say, focusing in on the intimacy, the direct intimacy of these characters, but at the same time we have to remember the kind of a context in which this film is being made, and the passages like this from the essay really help to remind me of this. That's such a great, great essay. I can't recommend this enough. It really helps, as I say, further enhance one's appreciation of the film. And it's well written and so brilliant. So this is the essay Daring to See, which is included in this fold-out booklet. So once again, my friends, this is the release by Criterion of Portrait of a Lady on Fire, Portrait de la jeune fille en feu, Celine Sciamma. And I cannot sing the praises of this film strongly enough, and I cannot urge strongly enough. Again, this is something that should be seen by as many people as possible. I am so happy that I was able at last to see it, because now I know why it is as loved as it is. It really deserves that love and that appreciation, because it is an unbelievably emotionally powerful work. So moving, so lovely, and it just it stays with you. It just stays with you. It's that powerful, and it's that moving, and it's that resonant. My goodness, this is a great film, and what a great release by Criterion. Thank you very much for this. This is at spine number 1034, Celine Sciamma. Once again, this is the film Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Okay, my friends, so thank you very much once again. Thank you so much for all of you who recommended this film to me throughout the past year or so. I really appreciate it, my friends. I know now what you mean when you were recommending this film to me. Also, I want to thank our dear friend Luke at RazorwireReviews, another great, great YouTube channel. My dear friend, my hero, Luke at RazorwireReviews. He and I spoke about this film, and he told me of his love of this film. He was so enthusiastic. He still is. He thinks it's one of the best films he's seen in recent memory. And so I really want to applaud him as well, and I want to thank Luke and everyone else who has really championed this film and has recommended this film to me and to everyone else. So thank you, Luke at RazorwireReviews. Thank you to all of you who have recommended this film to me over the past several months. I am deeply, deeply grateful to you. And until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well. And please keep on watching a lot of great, great movies. Thank you so much again, my friends, and cheers.